Coming up on this episode of The Village Idiom.
Picking a bud with my bud, drinking a bud, smoking bud, watching our bud.
There it is. I knew there was one more.
Village Idiom.
Hello and welcome to The Village Idiom.
We are a podcast that every single week. Do I need to say we're a podcast? Like they've got their podcast app open. We're every week. We choose a popular saying, take an admittedly shallow, hopefully comedic, once in a while interesting, and if we're lucky, educational dive into its meaning, its usage, its origins. But mostly we're going to use it to hang our otherwise directionless conversation on. My name is Jurassic Mark.
I'm Skinny. This
Hello,
morning,
Skinny.
I started off like I do every morning with a bowl of idioms. We eat, sleep, breathe idioms.
Actually.
Yeah, we love.
I think about it all the time. I'm like, I have a list that should take us for quite some time.
Right, we have 1,000 idioms.
But at the same time,
we're on episode
I'll hear one and I'll go, is that on my list?
We're on episode 187 and we have like 1,000.
Do we have 1,000?
I think it's 1,000.
Wow. I feel like when the first list I made when we talked about this podcast, I feel like I said to you, I won't remember exactly, but I feel like I said to you, I've got enough on this list to go 9 years.
That's hilarious.
So that's not 1,000, but
no,
10 years would be 500.
That's half of it.
Yeah, we're halfway there.
Pretty good.
I believe we can do
Living on a prayer. Here we go.
I believe we can do 1,000.
How old will we be to do 1,000?
Well,
if we do 50 years, 20 years.
20 years.
But
we started, so we're only 2 years in. So 18 years from now, I'll be 68. I'll be retired, living the retired idiom life.
Just be drooling. We'll wheel up to the podcast station.
I'm Jurassic Mark because I'm as old as a dinosaur.
We should say
today's podcast is it'll be an idiom.
Well,
that was invented way back in 1999.
We're gonna offend some of our listeners.
What else
our
is
listeners new? Who are already seniors going, I don't sound like that.
Oh, right now?
Yeah. They go, 68. You don't sound.
I'm speaking.
Hey, Shani.
I'm speaking about myself. It's true though. Like we overplay the elderly. Like when I became a grandpa, and I'm like, if you sat down a bunch of kindergartners and said, "Hey, draw a picture of a grandpa, generic grandpa," it's like
gray hair, walker,
canes, and yeah. And I'm like, oh man, I'm a grandpa. What? I'm a grandpa. It's crazy. Anyway,
it's pretty awesome. Well, great week anyways.
18 more years. We can do it.
Yeah, you should. Well, if something starts to go off the rails, you should perhaps deal with it like a little bit early.
Yeah, you should.
Now I'm talking nip it in the bud.
Nip it in the bud.
Jump on that thing nice and early. Nip it in the bud.
That is today's idiom. Nip it in the bud. This one I think I do use pretty regularly. We always talk about, is it in our everyday language? I think I say it enough to go, yeah, I use this one.
I was telling a few weeks back about our Iranian friends who have just emigrated into the country. And
that was a while back.
You start to really discover how you use idioms and little colloquialisms, little sayings that just
don't translate.
Yeah, we were at a friend's house having some dinner, and they're like, and the friend was like, "Oh, just like wander around, like take a look. It's not like I keep the royal jewels or something, the crown
family jewels.
Not the family jewels. That's different.
Oh,
it's not like I store the crown jewels here."
You said that to them?
That's what she said to them. I'm like, that's barely understandable in ours. Like the crown jewels. Never mind someone who's from Iran. I don't know what you're talking about.
Right. At least you can.
The crown jewels.
Even if you're wondering why they said it, at least you know what it means. They might actually think this person has crown jewels and say, that's not where I keep it. So go ahead.
Maybe it's not where I keep the crown jewels.
We need to find out where her crown jewels are.
She has crown jewels.
She has crown jewels. That's funny. Yeah, well, and as we do idioms, we had what was it, the Russian bear? Is that what his name was? And his made no sense in English. And we actually have one coming up recommended that, we'll get into it, but I had never heard of it. But I did find it in literature, and turns out it has Japanese origin. And
crazy!
Somebody recommended that one. So
from one of our manga type friends?
Maybe. Okay. I don't actually know. He just offered it up.
Well, there you go.
It's a legitimate child, legitimately. But on that note, like if you have an idiom,
Well,
you'd
he's
like
been on
us.
the podcast. Ethan, right?
Yeah. What was his name on the podcast? Or was it just Ethan?
No, what does he use? I'm trying to think now. I'm trying to think back to his like computer usernames, but it might come to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, he recommended it, and I'm looking forward to getting into that one.
He's cool. So nipping things in the
Oh,
bud.
I was going to say, if you're listening to this and you know, I run into friends who listen, like just friends, not listener who have now become friends, who are just like, hey.
I ran into people on the street all the time. It's like, you just sound just like the guy.
Yeah. And they'll say, hey, have you done this one? If that comes to mind, send us a message.
Let us know. Reach out.
Because guaranteed there's ones not on our list. And it doesn't have to be English. If it's like, hey, I came from Korea when I was a kid. We moved here, and we used to always say, love to hear it.
Kimchi a day? I don't know. I got nothing. That's the only Korean thing I could think of real quick.
Kimchi a day keeps it's probably just the same. Keeps the doctor away.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I
let
love
us know.
fermented things. So kimchi is a good one. So nipping it in the bud. I came up with a fantastic sentence. Village Idiom children, you can chime in, that includes 4 uses of the word bud. Ready? Here you go.
Okay, great.
Picking a bud with my bud, drinking bud, smoking bud.
Oh, wow.
Ready? What's
Yeah.
the first one? Picking a bud with my bud, drinking bud, smoking bud.
Is there any more? Is there any other? Can we add on to this? Because that's great.
Okay. So the first one, picking a bud. So like the bud off of like a flower.
Yeah, nipping it, you might say.
Nipping it, some would say. So you have the picking of like the beginnings of a flower or that sort of thing. With my bud.
Yeah, a friend.
With my friend, short for buddy. We would just say, my bud. Going for a rip, yeah, bud.
Yeah.
That's a good Canadian one.
Yeah.
You going for a rip, bud? Drinking bud.
Budweiser.
Yeah, king of beers, of course. And smoking bud.
Which I'm assuming is marijuana.
Yes, the devil's lettuce.
The devil's lettuce.
The Mary Jane.
What about, can you work in like,
The BC bud.
don't you call it butting in line? Or is it butting in line?
I know the phrase, use the phrase, but I don't know if we're budding.
I think you hit them all. The wheels are spinning and I want to add to one, but I can't think of another bud.
Well, comment Village Idiom children in if you could think of another one to add into the list, but
Yeah.
I liked it because it was nice and tight.
I mean, you could go for an actual proper name like Buddy Hackett, like Bud. I'm trying to think. Is there a Bud, not Buddy? Bud. The son's name in Married with Children was Bud.
The dog.
Bud.
Isn't like Bud like the name of the dog in like all those like flying dog kind of movie?
Oh, Air Bud.
Air Bud, that's the one. Yeah.
There you go. While watching Air Bud.
While watching Air Bud.
There you go.
Picking a bud with my bud, drinking a bud, smoking bud, watching Air Bud.
There it is. I knew there was one more.
There had to be. Yeah. So all the different uses of bud. And so not all buds are to be nipped.
Fair enough.
That's a shirt right there. Right?
Let me.
Not all buds should be nipped.
I want to show you this. So, Googling "nip it in the bud," there is a single character in classic television that comes up over and over again. Did you stumble across it? Barney Fife in the Andy Griffith Show.
Don Knotts?
Don Knotts is known for saying "nip it in the bud." So check out. Here's a little montage. It's not too long.
Okay. I'll make sure we don't get copy struck here.
Got to stop right now. Nip it. Nip it in the bud.
What in the bud?
You
Right
and
in the
Jeff,
bud.
that's what. Nip it. Tell him you're mine.
Barney Fife, I do believe you're jealous.
Doggone Thelma Lou, you're my girl, ain't you?
Of course I am.
All right, then
Wait for
nip it. I say this calls for action.
New one.
And now, nip it in the bud. First sign of youngsters going wrong, you got to nip it in the bud. Nip it.
New one.
You go read any book you want on the subject of child discipline, and you'll find that every one of them is in favor of bud nipping.
Take care of it.
Only one way to take care of it.
Nip it.
In the bud. Set up a checkpoint, nip
New
it
one.
speeding right in the bud. Forget about
New
it.
one.
Nip it in the bud. Barney's in jail.
New one. has enough. But yeah, he's like known for his nip it in the bud.
So he's like grabbed an idiom and made it his.
It's Don Knotts as Barney Fife. It's his own.
Nip it in the bud.
You know what you got to do?
Yeah, nip it.
In the bud. So great. I liked him in... actually, I've liked him in everything, especially teamed up with Tim Conway, the oldies.
Mm-hmm.
But
laughing
even
at each other.
Yeah, but even in Three's Company, remember Mr. Furley?
Absolutely.
He's great. Anyway, little
trip down memory
lane in memory of Don Knotts.
There's a bud. You need to nip it.
You need to nip it in the bud.
Best way to deal with that? Nip it. In the bud.
Exactly.
Anyway, yeah. So all these different usage of bud. That it's like a common multi-meaning because it means alcohol. It means weed.
The word bud.
The bud.
Yeah.
Like you'd think
but actually, couldn't you? Doesn't nipping mean drinking too? Could you nip a bud?
Oh, crazy! Why haven't Budweiser reach out to us? We've got all sorts of ideas.
Yeah, right.
Just have a little nip of the bud. But that sounds like weed when you say it that way.
It does. Nip it in the bud. Have a nip of the bud. Something.
There's something there. But if we had time,
we could put
together a little something
presentation together for you, Budweiser.
King of beers.
Is that Budweiser?
King of beers. Yeah, they take that crown thing.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Put it up top and make it a Corona.
They make it. Those Corona is the king of beers.
No, Bud. But Corona means crown.
Right. That's what I'm saying. You said.
I see. No, but Budweiser is the king of beers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like talk about
Everybody
just
knows this.
Amazing marketing, like the king of beers. It's like everyone's like, you can't say that. Like the rest of it, can't believe they grabbed that
Lord of beers,
the king of kings of beers,
the almighty beer. Just goes straight to the top. Anyway, yeah, it seems ridiculous, but it's true. Bud is the multi-meaning word. It's an English, cacophony of mystery.
So
wonder.
In your sentence, nip it in the bud with bud while drinking a bud, smoking a bud and watching Air Bud. Mm-hmm. The first one is correct. A bud is a bud. The second one is short for buddy. The third one is short for Budweiser. Is the weed one bud? Is it just because it's plant?
Yeah, it's plant. It's BC Bud. It's the same thing.
Okay. And then the last one, Air Bud, is the name of the movie. Okay. So they're all abbreviated except for the two, which are both plants.
It's exciting. The origins of these things.
So speaking of buds, just actually legitimate, like, I don't know if you drove in and saw all the pink flowers on the trees.
Yes.
Oh, it's my favorite time of year. And then they all come down in like 48 hours and it's like snowing pink.
Oh, you're talking about back when, no. I was talking you're talking about back in like April, May. When the cherry blossoms were coming out. It's like August.
And but on your way in, did you see the pictures I took of that?
No, you snapped some photos of it.
As you walk down the aisle of the driveway.
Okay, cool. You put pictures up.
I love it so much.
I didn't see that part.
Yeah, it probably would have been April, whenever that time of season. But it's so beautiful for like a second.
Yeah,
then it just
the best
snows.
10 days.
Yeah, that just snows.
Then it just clogs your drains.
I don't know if those are, because usually I think of that as the Japanese cherry blossom, but I don't know if that's what these are out here. They're just so big. Doesn't seem that it could be the same thing, but
Oh, those are the sumo ones. That's why.
Got it.
They're on an extra caloric diet.
The sumo cherry blossoms.
They're still Japanese.
I guess that makes sense. I mean, Mount Fuji is huge too.
It's big.
Yeah, you're right. All right. Well, should we...
let's jump in. Let's find out where this bad girl comes from.
I said some words. Where'd they go? Where'd they go? No one can know. I turned around and looked behind. Those words came from another mind.
So, as we kind of said, or at least implied, the nip it in the bud means to halt something at an early stage. So here's my sample sentence. By arresting all the leaders, they nipped the rebellion in the bud. So it's obviously very easy to assume, and you'd be right, that it comes or derives from the debudding of plants. But there was an earlier version of the phrase, which there often is with these idioms. It used to be nip it in the bloom. Nip it in the bloom. And that's we can find that in Henry Chettle's romance Piers Plans 7 Years Apprenticeship in 1595. It says, extinguish these fond loves with mind's labor, and nip thy affections in the bloom, that they may never be of power to bud. So the current version, the one we use, using the word bud, first appears, as far as I know, in 1607 in Beaumont and Fletcher's Comedy of Manners. Here's a title. You couldn't use this title anymore. It's called Woman Hater. So
That's not going to fly.
here's the quote. Yet I can frown and nip a passion even in the bud. So 1607 is as early as that gets. Prior to that, it was nip it in the bloom. What I couldn't figure out, and I didn't go down the botany road of this, that's it for origins. Like, it comes from nipping flowers as or before they bloom. But my question that I should have looked up is, why would you want to?
Okay, so I think I have the answer, and it's kind of another idiom, but I didn't find it in the idiom list. A little pruning goes a long way.
Is that actually an idiom?
Don't think so.
Okay.
But I did. It's in there.
I think the idiom is a little goes a long way.
It's a little goes a long way, but I'd heard it as a little pruning goes a long way. And so but then when I went and Googled it, I couldn't find anything. So I must have been dropped as a baby. Because so the idea being that if you want something to be fruitful, so you nip off the buds that are sucking energy so that you can divert it to the things that you want to really produce.
Is that how pruning works?
I think so.
I don't know. I've never understood why cutting it back.
So I know that there's these things that they're called suckers. So it's the parts of like branches or things that come off that are going to be unfruitfully suck the energy off the tree,
really,
and not really yield anything.
Huh.
And so you prune the tree to divert the tree's growing potential into the things that you want. And so if it's a fruit tree, you prune the tree so that will grow better fruit by pruning the tree back.
I find it interesting that the idiom is nip it in the bud. So it's not like nip it before it buds. Mm-hmm. Or...
Well, you wouldn't know where to nip unless it budded. Huh. You just can't go around willy-nilly nipping things.
So it's nip it in the bud, but before the bloom. It's kind of both. Because the bud, it's not really bloomed yet, right? You can see the bud.
You have to be able to see something before you can nip it. You can't just go nipping it before anything appears.
Isn't there candy or chocolates?
Nib.
Something buds?
Licorice.
Buds? Duds. Milk duds. I think that's what I was thinking of.
Milk buds.
Milk buds.
Don't go nipping those. Those are nips. Should probably cut out that part.
Nibs. Anyways,
not important.
I still feel like there's some candy or chocolate that has the word buds. Nerds, milk duds, something buds. There's something buds, like maybe milk a chocolate covered.
Well, there's nibs.
There's nibs.
Little
there is milk duds.
Milk duds and nibs, perhaps some concoction.
Yeah, I can't think of it. There's goodies. I love me theater candy. You used to only find certain candy in the theater, and you can never see it in the store. It's not so much anymore. It's pretty typical stuff in the theater.
Yeah, it's
Kit Kats and candy bars.
That it's the exorbitant price.
Yeah,
it's like
that's what makes it special.
Here's a $10 for some milk buds.
Went to first movie post-pandemic. Took my daughter. We met up with my other two boys and their significant others, and I can't think of what we went. Oh, we went and saw Sonic 2. Mm-hmm. But my daughter, who has special needs, has a special card which allows whoever is her care person or worker or guardian to go in for free, because she can't go into a theater on her own.
If I take her to movies, I can go for free?
Yes.
No.
Yeah. So you also
how high
only
of a
pay
rating is okay for you for her to see things?
blindfolds, earmuffs. So in her case,
I would like to go see Sonic with her.
they charged us for a child's ticket, and so I'm like, 2 of us went to see Sonic 2 for $9. But then my snacks was $29. It's like that's so
ridiculous.
stupid. How can that be possible?
It's right. Just start stuffing her clothes with things.
I'm a sucker for the combo 1 comes with a free digital rental. I'm like, I gotta get a digital rental. Gotta get that. So I do pay more than I need to.
I don't even have good Wi-Fi. What do I need a digital rental for?
Got good Wi-Fi now. We're up to date, baby.
So this is its origins.
Yeah, there it is. Originally Nip It in the Bloom. That's the extent of it. So $15.95 for Nip It in the Bloom, or at least that is a quote. And the earliest new version, Nip It in the Bud, was in 1607. Woman hater. Nip it in the bud. So,
whoa, here she comes.
Watch out, or she'll chew you up.
Can you a man
like
eater?
A milk dud?
That can't. These are all these things from the past. You just can't go willy-nilly calling a movie or a book woman hater.
It actually doesn't say. I'm assuming it's a book. It's 1607. It's not a movie.
It's definitely not a movie.
But it's a comedy of manners. Is how
those are actually kind of amusing.
Are you joking right now?
No.
What's a comedy of manners?
It's so like I'm trying to think. I saw one at Bard on the Beach. It was comedy of errors.
That makes more sense.
Yeah, it was comedy.
So
of errors.
this is a more polite version of that.
It's not quite as wrong, even though they are errors.
It's comedy of manners. I don't know.
Maybe it's like people being so persnickety with their manners that they're actually
that's the
insulting
comedy.
each other.
Comedy of manners. And they're just overly polite.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
He ate it
Be
with the salad fork.
His pinky was raised.
That's a comedy of manners.
Elbows off the table. Just keeps putting his elbows on the table.
These one-liners are hilarious.
Yeah, so not exactly the most riveting origin story, but nevertheless, it is an origin story, and now we know. It comes from flowers.
Well, it is no Wolverine of origin stories, but we'll take it.
Wolverine?
Do you see the Wolverine, Hugh Jackman Wolverine?
Right.
Did you see like when he had like wooden claws?
Oh, his origin story.
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you're meaning.
Like, so this is just an origin story of an idiom.
Right.
But it's no Wolverine. It's
right.
It's just not good.
Prior to that, it was just straw claws. At first, it was just a drawing.
But then people were like, you can't have, like, so they took his straws away and then made him use plastic or made him use paper straws. Wasn't good.
So, I should admit this.
Okay.
I'm gonna.
Okay.
Judge me if you will.
Okay. You've kept some plastic straws.
Not only did I keep them, somebody donated.
You take turtles and jam straws through their
somebody
noses.
Donated to a thrift shop, like, I don't know, 2 or 3 jumbo Ziploc bags full of restaurant plastic straws, like A&W, McDonald's, Wendy's. I'm like, yes, please. I bought them.
A nickel. Here
and
you
they're
go.
just hiding in the glove compartment of my car now, so that when I go through a drive-thru and get a soggy paper straw, I can go, oh, no, you don't.
Not today, Satan.
Not today, Satan. You will not paper straw me.
Okay, what we should get is the riddlings. Call this one done.
Oh, yeah. I guess we should. Look at that. Look at the time just flying by here.
Enough of your paper straw content.
Well, let me tell you about a little game we play. It's called Riddle-Link.
Okay.
Takes a 2-part trivia-based question, requires a 2-part overlapping answer, overlapping by syllable, word, or words. So, for example, if we go all the way back to last week, episode 186, Keep It at Bay. We left you with this one. See if you can figure it out. You didn't answer in the moment, so I'm going to see if you can figure it out now. The idiom was keep it at bay. Preventing something from happening with Pamela Anderson. Keeping something from happening. The idiom was keep it at bay.
Let me think. My brain almost caught fire. I'm going to go with keep it at Baywatch.
There it is. See, not so hard.
I'm more of
and
a
that's how you
Hasselhoff.
play. So it's a 2-part answer. Keep it at bay and Baywatch. But that's not the answer. The answer is keep it at Baywatch, which I did through most of the 90s.
Perfect. I've got one right here. Okay. I'm just quickly editing because I spelled some things wrong and then I got confused. You ready?
Sure.
Okay, so we are working through riddlinks. And number one. The devil's lettuce for cats needs to stop before it starts.
The devil's lettuce for cats.
I screwed it up. The devil's lettuce for felines
Okay.
needs to stop before it starts.
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay, cat nip it in the bud. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sad with myself. Oh, that hurts. The
reason he's reacting is because he said the word cat, but cat is in the answer, and that's why he's disappointed.
What's worse
in
is
himself.
I adjusted it 5 seconds earlier.
To not say cat?
No.
Or you added cat?
Yeah, I added cat. I'm trying not to.
Cat nip it in the bud.
Okay, you got one for me?
Yeah, here you
My
go.
sadness.
Here you go.
Illegitimate children, see if you can beat me.
This flying dinosaur played Barney Fife. This flying dinosaur.
I know, I'm thinking a pterodactyl.
Close.
Mastodon knots. It's
So combine those two words.
pterodon knots?
Pteranodon. Yeah.
Pteranodon. Okay.
Pteranodon knots.
I'm not up on my dinosaurs like you are.
Got it. Pteranodon and
Okay.
don knots.
Okay.
Nip it in the bud.
End it before it takes off, says the king of beers.
Say it again. Just exactly the same.
End it before it takes off, says the king of beers.
That's so great. That would be nip it in the Budweiser.
Nip it in the Budweiser.
Nip it in the Budweiser. Maybe their slogan could be nippin' in the bud. Nippin' in the bud.
Nip it in the bud.
There it is. We just found it. It's not nip it. It's
Nippin'.
nippin' in the bud. Sounds like nip it in the bud still, but it's nippin' in the bud.
Nip it in the bud. Oh, well, we would love to hear from you on number 4 with this final riddlink. Reach out to us on Instagram at the.village.idiom or email us thevillageidiompodcast at gmail.com, or whether it's the Facebooks, the YouTubes, or the Twitters at 3 Minutes Gone.
We didn't talk about this, but so all right. I think this is pretty straightforward. This common mispronunciation of today's idiom is Beavis's pal. This common
okay.
mispronunciation of today's idiom is Beavis's pal.
Sure. Fair enough. And that is 3 minutes gone.
Now, to
Fair
be
enough.
fair, I meant to talk about it earlier.
These savages will be all over it. They don't need a backstory, but let's hear it.
It is one of those idioms where, did you know that nip it in the bud is nip it in the bud, B-U-D, like a lot of people say the wrong word.
Yes.
Like a dog biting you in the butt, to nip it in the butt.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, blah, blah, blah.
What's good?
Now I'm feeding you hints over here.
It's all good. We got it. Well, it was fun putting this together for you. I hope you're enjoying your summer. I am Skinny.
I am Jurassic Mark.
And
See,
these
and we've
are
got to nip it right in the bud, and I mean right now. Or pretty soon.
I didn't mean to click on the Skipper and Gilligan.
Let's one more time. Let's hear that.
See, and we've got to nip it right in the bud, and I mean right now. Or pretty soon.
Pretty good. I'm still Skinny.
You sure are, and I'm Jurassic Mark.
And these are the Village Idioms.
I got a nip it in the bud.
All right.
Last 3 minutes gone.